Alright, today we are starting a project. It is the automatic door for the goat house. So the chickens have an automatic door, the geese have an automatic door, so now it is time for the goats. Problem is that this automatic door has to be pretty big to fit a goat. So it's got to be all custom. And here we are today building our custom automatic goat door that's going to open up when the sun comes out, and then about 10-11 o'clock in the morning it's going to close, because by 10-11 o'clock somebody's going to have the main door open already. So this is just to get the goats out as soon as possible when the sun's out. Say we're having a lazy day, we want to sleep in, this is what we want. Just something to stay open in the early hours, let them out, get them out of the house as fast as possible, because the less time they're inside, the less of that other stuff they're leaving inside. And here we are today trying to make that happen. What we're going to do is we're going to put the automatic door right here, and this hole is kind of already lined up ready for us. We're going to put some support on the inside, we're going to put some extra supports on the outside, hence these 2x4s here, and we're just going to make this happen. It's a completely custom build, because a door this size, I couldn't find anything easy, good that fits for our custom shed. So what you could do at home is you could take these plans, kind of what I'm doing, see what works for you, what doesn't, and adapt them to what you want to do. Here we are on the inside. This is the panel where we're going to be putting the door. It's going to go here. It's going to be about 2 feet wide, just shy, anywhere between 18 inches and 2 feet. I'm going to try and make it as wide as I can, because the more space the better, and it's going to go up about 20 inches, maybe depending on space up to 24. We'll see when we start cutting, but I know where the bottom is going to be, at the bottom right here where the bedding stops. So I'll leave a little lip to make sure that no bedding gets over, and we'll just cut the door. But first, like I said, we got to put up an extra support, and that's going to go right here, an extra 2x4 right here, give us a little bit more support here. But luckily I don't need to put an extra support here, because I got plenty of supports here. Well, we reached the point of no return. We got to keep going now. There's a big hole in there, and so by the end of the night it's got to be plugged up one way or another. But for now I want to show you my thoughts on the support on the outside, because all the mechanisms that make this open and close are going to be on the outside. So it's got to be waterproof, and more importantly, it's got to be goat proof. So I originally was going to put these like regular 2x4s and have them stacked this way straight out. And that would have gave me enough room, but the problem is there's not too much room. If a goat comes by and wants to give this a good push, they'll easily just knock it sideways, and then I have a feeling I'll be having to fix this. So my thought is, if I get a 2x4 like that, and then I start screwing it in on both sides, so now it's nice and secure, and I just put a second 2x4 in front of it, yeah, that'll be 4 2x4s, 2 over here and 2 over here, but I'm 99% sure no goat's going to be able to kick it out. And also that'll give me just enough width for all my mechanisms on the inside to fit. Here we are getting ready to put the final supports on for here and here, and what I did was I made a notch in to support the 2x4. This notch is long enough or wide enough in this direction, in and out, so that the plywood can slide up and down it, and then it's in enough so that it's not going to pop out, because the plywood width is going to fit in there. So not only is it going to slide nice and tight up against the wall here when you put it this way, it's also going to capture it right in. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to cut the notch up here in a little bit and out, so that if I want to take out the piece of plywood, it's going to be a little bit of pain getting all the mechanical stuff out of the way, but at least I don't have to take all these supports off here. I can just take the mechanical stuff out, pull out the piece of plywood from all the way up and then out. All right, so we got our notches And our cutouts all in our supports here. And I got my piece of plywood all cut up. It's the size. So this fits right in. Oh, look at that. And it slides right on down in. But the next thing I really got to do is put on the extra 2x4s here and here, just right on top of these guys. I got to cut this notch out here so that I can still get this out. So if that notch isn't there on the ones that you put on top, you're not going to be able to get the plywood out. So I've already got my hinges on for my door, this one and this one, and they're flat up against the side here, where you can see they're already attached. But when I get the plywood that's going to go on top, I wanted to get nice and flush against this piece of wood here and this piece of wood here. So what I did is I recessed in the thickness of this so that this is now flush with the wood. So now when that piece of wood, plywood, comes down, it'll be nice and flush and a little bit more water resistant. So that's the big thing right now, is making sure that all of our electronics or mechanisms that are going to be sitting right here are water resistant, and hopefully no rain, no snow, anything will come on in. So we got the hinges ready. Next part is we got to make like a mini roof. So I'm just going to get these about 9-inch pieces of wood, put them on the inside here on a slight angle, and then I'll just put a piece of plywood on top, and I have extra metal roofing, so I'll just put that on top as well. Good news is the roof is done. Bad news is I tried to make these bottoms as horizontal as possible, but I had to tweak them down just a little bit to get the plywood to fit, so they're not horizontal. The reason why I wanted them horizontal is so when the door comes up, it just slides nice and sweet underneath here. But now since this is further down than back here, I'm going to have a little gap when the door is closed. So I'll have to figure out how to fix that, but that shouldn't be a problem. I'm thinking just a piece of plywood under here with a little bit of shims in the back, and we'll be all good. So here's the roof. Just pretty simple. You notice how I cut the bottoms of these 2x4s so that they would almost be horizontal, but they're close. And there's just the top of the roof. All right, I finally got the door on. Looks pretty good. A couple small things I'll change. But got the door on. I got my rain cover for the roof, you know that, and I got a piece of 2x4 back there. I'm not happy with these latches at all. They just have too much give in them. I want to have this door right up against the 2x4 inside. So that latch and this latch down here has got to go. All right, we're finally at the point where we can put in a linear actuator. It's fully extended, Ice Age, and it's not hooked up on the other way up here at the top, but it's a pretty simple hookup. You got your one screw here, Ice Age, and then you got your sliding screw on this side. So all you do for this is you pin this in place with the one big pin here, and then you pin her in with a small pin, and then I'm just going to eventually lift her up and connect that slide hole here and marry it up into here. And now that's in place, we'll have to also get that second hole in there with another screw. It's that simple. All right, finally got her enclosed to the point where I'm happy with the weather situation. You see all that white stuff is all the caulk. I just throw down a ton of caulk in there because I don't care. I do not want any water in there, so we should be doing good. All right, as far as I'm concerned, she's weather tight. I'm happy with the way it turned out. A few things I had to learn along the way. Just making this little extra box. I never did anything like this, so it's been doing pretty good. Definitely have to get new latches here because those latches leave this open by a good inch, maybe two. So I'll be getting new latches, but everything is sealed in, which is nice. And everywhere where I couldn't get full seal, I just put some caulk in there to make it work. Right now, the linear actuator is actually holding this up, so that's really cool. It's obviously not hooked up anywhere, but that's the next step. So just about everything is waterproof as far as I can make it for what it is, and so now it's just hook up the electrical and get this the power when we want it. Here we are. We finally got our cabinet with our door made with the good latches, the latches that I've been wanting to get, so I updated those. I also ran through electric. That's your typical house electric wire. That's going straight to an outlet right here, so that's live right now. And what we're going to do is we're going to have to convert our house electric down to 12 volts electric because it's a 12 volt linear actuator. So we're going to have to get that going. We're going to have to get a relay, a sensor for the light, a timer so that this goes down during the day. A lot of little things are going to go involved in this. I've never done anything like this before, so it's going to take me a bit of trial and error. So we're just going to start mounting the individual pieces in the places where I want them to be, and then I'll start connecting them as they should be connected, and fingers crossed we'll get it right when it's all said and done. All right, I know I skipped a lot here, but instead of talking about how many issues I've had and how much trial and error I had, because I'm not too electrical savvy, especially with this type of circuit, it was just easier to let you guys know how it all worked out in the end. But the biggest thing to know is that your linear actuator here and its power supply needs to be 12 volt power, and you get that by bringing your 12 volt, or I'm sorry, your house voltage into a 12 volt inverter here. So that's your biggest thing to know. So everything's 12 volts, and when the linear actuator, the positive connection on that goes to your positive connection on your inverter, and the negative goes to negative, the linear actuator will start to extend. So pretty simple. All right, but instead of when the power gets turned off, it comes back up, it's actually, you gotta switch the polarity on the inversion, through the inverter. So you actually have to connect positive to negative and negative to positive, and that'll make it go up. Instead of starting at the inverter and going elsewhere, I think it's easier to explain the outside, starting here with our light sensor. I found out through a lot of trial and error that light sensor turns the power on and off when the light is the light sensor senses too much light or not enough light. So these connections here are from the light sensor going
every which way in the cabinet here. And so because I'm not that savvy with electronics and 12 volt circuits, I was only able to figure out that when the light sensor senses that it's too dark, that's when it'll turn on the power for the rest of the circuit. Okay, so now you have power running through all the circuits to whatever's connected to this, which is good. Just I wanted it the other way. I wanted power and things to turn on when the light turned on. Yeah, so it was the exact opposite of what I wanted. So to get to the next step here, these are called relays. A relay is actually kind of cool. I didn't know they existed. So when the light sensor is coming in here through the bottom pins with power on, it'll give positive here output and negative here output. But when the sensor's off, it'll give you negative here and positive there, which is kind of cool. You just need to feed the power into these two pins, while these two down here determine what on and off happens. So it'll either power up these two pins or these two pins, and you'll be all set. And relays work very well with an on-off switch here. So these two pins will take your connection from your on-off from my sensor here, and it will output my positive and negatives that I need out here, and it'll put them into my timer. And what happens is when your power in coming from the sensor turns on and off, you'll actually hear a click here. I'll demonstrate that by turning on and off the timer, which is hooked up to this relay, and I'll just manually turn this off and you'll hear a click. And that click came from that relay, not the timer here, and you'll hear it click back on as it turned back on. And I think you can actually see the little green light turn on for a half second when it turns on. Alright, so that's pretty cool. Now that's basically what's happening here. Is it just when you hear the click, it's either giving power to these top two pins or these top two pins. And since I needed power reversed for the sensor here, this was the perfect vehicle to do that. And as you can see, I don't have any connectors here because I don't need them. I needed to know and reverse the on-off essentially from the light sensor. All right, so now that we got things turning on and off the way we want it out of this relay, we got the positive here and the negative here coming out only when the sensor senses that it's light out. So now that it's light out, we bring it to the timer. The timer says if it's anywhere between, I believe, 6:30 and 11 in the morning, we're going to continue to let that power run through. And that power runs through the second relay. The second relay has all 8 pins connected because it needed that on-off switch from what's now both the timer and the sensor. So when both are saying, yep, it's good, it's light out, and it's between the hours of, I believe, 6:30 and 11, now all of a sudden that'll click this on. That's why you were able to hear the clicking before. Click, click. So now that that's turning it on, I now have the positive and negatives, and the negatives and positives behind it. going to this switch right here. This switch here, instead of it being up and down, I turned it into an on, off, and reverse. This switch has 3 locations. As you can see, up is on, down is off, as in no power is going to be going to our linear actuator, and then reverse is just going to be literally the opposite of what second relay is telling it to do. So right now, second relay is telling it to go up. I hit reverse, it's going to go down. And I'll turn it back on so that it goes back up. But if it was dark or outside the time of the timer, it would literally be the opposite, where the linear actuator would go down, would be down, and then reverse would bring it up. It's that kind of simple. So then this brings it straight into your linear actuator. So I now have my light sensor and my timer hooked up the way I want it to, and I have a manual shut off here, so I don't have to unplug if I don't want to. It's just somebody can go right on in, click on, off, or reverse. So if something's going on or I want to demonstrate it like you guys, I just hit reverse so I can show you it going up and down. If let's just say there's going to be a bad snowstorm coming in and I don't want it to open up in the morning, I'll just click it to off, and then it just won't work tomorrow morning. It'll be that simple. So that's the rundown of how this comes in. But one last thing is this inverter here. Believe it or not, this actually had what most people would call a cigarette lighter adapter at the end. And I had to cut that cigarette lighter adapter off, and it just showed your red and black wires, and that's obviously your positive and negative leads going in. But that was about the only extra thing that I had here. I bought this specific inverter because it looks like it was more enclosed. I guess inverters can get hot, so some of them have air vents. I didn't want air vents because, once again, I want it to be weatherproof as possible, even though, you know, this is definitely not going to be waterproof, but at least there's not direct vents coming in. I guess inverters can get hot if you use them a lot, considering that this linear actuator is only going to be used twice a day, you know, up in the morning, down at night, or I should say at 11 o'clock, we should be good. Another thing is these connectors here came in real handy. The Wagos, W-A-G-O, they basically take, if you put in negative power coming in, now you can share negative power amongst everything else that you put in there. You just open them one at a time, you know, put it in and call it a day. So those came in handy when I was putzing around trying to figure out exactly how I wanted to wire this and figure out what goes where. So that's about it for how this works. A lot of moving parts here, but it all came together. It's all wired up correctly. I'll just move it up now. So it goes up and down as it should. It is, yes, a little bit louder than I'd like it to be, but it's going to be behind this box or cabinet, so it'll work out well. It goes up and down slow, so that's great, so that the goats can get the heck out of the way. So it does pretty much everything I'm looking for it to do. It goes up first thing in the morning when the light turns on, and then at 11 o'clock the timer turns it off. So, and then the timer turns off and closes it, and it stays closed the entire time. But one last thing that's kind of bothering me, and believe it or not, my sister-in-law brought it up, so she gave me more work to do. She asked me what happens when the linear actuator goes down, and let's just say a goat leg is in the way. And I said, the linear actuator keeps going down. She said, how much force does the linear actuator have coming down? And if I remember correctly, it's either 30 pounds or 300 pounds that this thing will push down on. So either whether it's 30 or 300, that's a lot too many for me. So I tried before having a slider on top, but as you can see, there's just not enough room with the 18-inch linear actuator. So I'm going to put the slider down here. So thank you, sister-in-law, for giving me a little bit more work to do. So this project is not done yet, but it's almost there. Good news is I think I can use almost all, if not all, the parts that I had for the slider that I had before that was on top that didn't fit. I think I can literally put them right here in the middle of the door and it should all work. Alright, here's the deal. This is the slide, the original slide that was originally up here. Linear actuator connected to up here, and it slid down so it wouldn't force anything down, but then once it got to here, it would push everything down. Give a nice 9-ish inches of stroke before a goat would get hurt or anything, and to give him some time to get out. Now, here's the thing, is this is where I'm currently mounted to the linear actuator. So I got to keep this location, which means this slider piece here has to be able to come up here. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to get another piece on top of this so that it'll stop the slider, while at the same time the slider can get right to this position. So it's going to be a little tricky, but I think I'll just end up getting a 2x4. I'll cut a little L in it right here so that it'll just hit like that, but it'll be more like that because I still got to keep this room for the connection here. And then I'll keep these same grooved in pieces here. I'll just make some longer ones. Go, full functioning slider. So it'll be pulled up by here for the linear actuator and up and down, nice and easy. Alright, goats. Alright, I'm hoping to do this with all the goats right here, so chances are they're going to try and eat something and I won't be able to do it. But let's give it a whirl. Run away, scaredy goats. Forgot I gotta take this out. See, these extra little cuts here came in handy pretty nicely because now I don't have to remove everything. I just gotta remove this if I want to get the door in and out. What the? Did you just eat something off of my thing? Oh, ghost. Oh, that's not cool. You want this? Come on, you got pressure treated wood on your nose. Well, that goes up and down now. That's plus. Okay. And look at that. Let's pretend that this is a goat foot or leg.
neck, whatever you wish to call it. Now, this can get out of the way. And it doesn't get smushed. That's awesome. I guess my question now becomes, how stubborn can they be? So, I guess they can be completely stubborn, because this thing will, they can be as stubborn as they want, because it can only get up to this high. This won't get in the way of any of this, and I guess that'll eventually push on them. Oh, and that's even awesome, because now that won't come out. That's really cool. So they can be completely stubborn. They will never get crushed. The only problem, which I'll take, is that if for whatever reason it's stuck all the way up and this is down, this, once the obstruction's out of the way, will come sliding on down and just possibly break my linear actuator. That would not be cool, but I'd rather take a, I believe it was a $40, $50 linear actuator bill over a broken leg, hoof, neck bill from a goat. So I think we're in the clear here, especially with this coming down at 11 o'clock a.m. There shouldn't be any goat just sitting here, you know, waiting to get something crushed on them. So I am quite happy with this. It took at least 3 times longer than I expected to do this, but I am happy with the results. This is pretty cool. I think Max is going to be happy. Believe it or not, we actually had this running this morning, so it did open up at 7 a.m. And you know, with the sun, not just 7 a.m. on a timer, it opened up around 7 a.m. and I didn't want it to come down at 11 because we didn't have the slider in place. So it's all in, all good to go. It's got just a little bit of wiggle for everything just to make sure it falls into place. But you saw me have some mistakes, have some issues. Unfortunately, you didn't see me burn up the one sensor and the one alligator clip that has smoke on it. I think I was either time lapsing or I wasn't filming, or the time when the tripod fell over, or when my phone ran out of battery when it was filming. So there's a lot of random things happening on this one, but overall it took about 3 times longer than I expected, and it's done. My guess, without doing the numbers, is probably around $150 to $200 with all the wood, all of the contraptions. Like I said, the linear actuator is a good 40 to 50 bucks alone by itself. Believe it or not, the 2 relays, what's kind of funny is I was looking for relays and I was looking only by one, and the pack that I got was a 2-pack, and I said, what am I going to do with a second one? And here it is. I just happen to need it for the project. So that's the story. I'm sticking to it. Thanks for watching, and hopefully this gives you some ideas, inspiration, so that you can do it yourself. Well, goats, you now have an automatic door. So it's exactly where I want it to be at this point. Next is to start thinking about the mechanism to pull it up. Really? All day you haven't said a dang word. Right now, huh?
Twist ties? Twist caps? I don't remember. Oh, that's great. Look on your phone that you're using to record yourself. And there's Cream saying hi. I think that's Cream. Yeah, that's Cream saying hi. Hi, Ty. Very curious today, aren't you? I wouldn't. Ew, don't eat it. You're disgusting. Alright, time to get out of here. I don't want you eating all this nasty pressure treated wood stuff. I said stop eating the pressure treated wood stuff. Don't eat the camera. What are you eating? You're always crunching on something. Come on, time to go. Come on. I knew you'd go for the camera. Come on, get out of here. Come on. And I'm just rambling. This thing is cool.